and this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
Do you or someone you know suffer from poor circulation, shortness of breath, or chest pains? Are you looking for a more natural solution to help overcome these problems? People tell us that after just a few months taking Extendivite, their doctors have noticed unexplainable improvements in their overall health. For more information, visit heartdrop.com or call 1-877-928-8822.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
And tell them Nighthawk sent you, because if you call this number and tell them Nighthawk sent you, you'll get $5 off your first order at extendivite.com. Thank you. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100%
Okay, we'll be live at 5:04.
radio, and now we return you to your host.
That way we don't have to
Barbara Jean Lindsey is an internationally acclaimed psychic, spiritual healer, author, and founder of the online mystery school, Esoteric University. As the Cosmic Oracle, she is a conduit to the powers that be to answer your questions about your future self, past lives, current career, love. She shines light into the darkness to illuminate what was, what may be, and beyond. The readings and advice given by Barbara Jean Lindsey are for entertainment purposes only, should not take the place of any medical, legal, or financial advice given to you by a qualified professional, and are not a substitute for medical, legal, or financial advice. If you need a doctor, call a doctor. If you need to be expanded, call the Cosmic Oracle.
Okay, we're back. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cosmic Oracle Show. We are coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. And we also have Michael Lee Hill today. Who's going to be with us again, back by popular demand. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in to Revolution Radio. We are a 100% volunteer station, and so what that means is no one gets paid for anything that we do. We are on the air just because we want to get the truth out there, and that gives us unlimited freedom to choose whatever guest that we want as a host and to talk about whatever we want, whatever subject, whatever titles, whatever we think's current happening, and we'll bring you something juicy to help you in your life somehow or add to it for sure. So thank you for tuning in. Revolution Radio is the largest internet radio station in the world. We're 100% listener supported, and we're here thanks to your generous support. And how you can keep on giving generously, $1, $5, $10, whatever you can, is go to revolutionradio.com at freedomslips.com. That's freedomslips.com. Hit that donate button and give whatever you can. We really, really appreciate it. And so I'm going to move this over here I'm talking to myself. I love that. I think it goes kind of with, at least I have some of my friends in the room too. So
as long as you don't ask yourself to repeat yourself.
Right. Or hit myself on the back, get away, you know. So welcome to the show once again, and I want to give a little bit of background. There's so much to go, you know, so many different ways with you, Michael. Maybe I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Will that be too? I know that'll be difficult for you.
No, it's good. I got it whittled down.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, I guess the reason I'm doing anything like this is I ended up on the History Channel, the UFO Hunters season 1, and in that episode they flew me to Boston and had my medical work done by a Harvard professor. It was revealed that I didn't have normal human blood. I know that's crazy, but it is what it is. So that was the led to me meeting the Anunnaki in the summer of 2008. He said, we want to talk to you about this blood anomaly that was revealed on the History Channel, that you're truly, it's a marker that you are part of our hybrid bloodline on this planet that was known as the Nephilim. At that point in time, that made no sense to me. But since that time meeting them, that course of study that I'm getting from them started in, the summer of 2008 and has culminated up until right now. And truly, they've educated me. And these are the things I'm here to share with the world. And that's hidden history, who we truly are as a race, pre-American history specifically, because what's going to be revealed is Earth's hidden history. And I often think of the Vatican archives. I'm like, this is on my people who are here. I'm Mound Builder heritage, and it's going to come out. That bloodline is the Atlanteans, and Edgar Cayce knew this as well. So we're going to leave that there, that it's hidden history, where this lost tribe of Israel, because that's what it is, with DNA backing that up now, will be revealed in the near future, becoming the Native American Indian mound builders of the North American continent that made Serpent Mound and Cahokia and so on and so forth. But also, they have educated me into parts of the Anunnaki mythology that no one knows, and pieces of the story that no one knows. And they've educated me on how that is connected to the Native American Indian history, in particular, a story of an individual named the Peacemaker. People can Google this, do Iroquois Indian Peacemaker. You'll find out that this is the story of unification of the Iroquois tribe of Indians. And any Iroquois that you go to and ask them, hey, because for a long time, the Iroquois tribe of Indians were at war with one another, brother on brother. And not only with each other, they were at war internally. Darkness had set in. And, but for some reason, they got over all that because of this individual that came over from the Canadian side of the Huron tribe, known as the Peacemaker. And he showed them a different way, and it ended up in the unification of the Iroquois, who they still have the oldest functioning democracy on this planet. And truly, they're the ones that Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin and George Washington went to the Iroquois Seneca chiefs and elders and grandmothers to learn how they united their tribes, because they wanted to unite these states. So what's going to be known as America, which means land of the serpent, is this whole thing of America was the culmination of an experiment that the Anunnaki put underway to help humanity rise in consciousness and evolve as quickly as possible. That experiment in free will, if you'll have it, ended with the creation of America. And we can talk about that because, man, we barely scrape by. This is not what, I think it's very interesting what happened too. No matter what you think about the the Trump hat-wearing kids and the Native American Indian elder. What it brought out, asking for, well, hey, man, what about a little bit of respect for Native American Indians? Because even if the kids, I'm not even getting into that part of it. I think it's a blessing that because the Native American Indians are going to be known here very soon to be where the true Enki line of the Annunaki human hybrid bloodline intertwined into the Iroquois tribe of Indians. Mostly the Sioux tribe, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota have held on to their star knowledge more so than any other tribe. But the Iroquois have more numbers of this bloodline incarnated than any other tribe. So that's just Native American Indian, pre-American history of the Anunnaki, but during this time period, they were also guiding me into the most cosmic harmonious frequencies and giving me an education on that they began using crop circles as like the chalkboard between their communication and me. And that just ended up with being guided into making this technology I create, which people can check out on my website. It's michaelleehill.net. And that is I hired these scientists to image using cymatic equipment, it's called. That is new science technology that makes the invisible visible. It makes frequency visible. What it is a big vat of water, and they pump frequency through it, and they have a very high-tech camera on top of it that's going to photograph what's happening on the surface of the water. What they found is specific frequencies create specific geometry. And the Anunnaki was telling me this was very important, so they started guiding me into the subject of 432 hertz and why it was important. Well, now, full circle to now, that technology has just been proven by today's leading science, set up by Richard Hoagland, by the way. He said, Michael, go ahead.
Woo. It isn't just woo out there.
This is science now. This isn't just some guy that says he's in contact with the Anunnaki. I can tell you what they've educated me on was just proven by NASA Consulting top leading biophysicists that set up for my work to be tested by these folks, by Richard Hoagland, because he said, Michael, we know your story sounds pretty freaking crazy to a lot of people, but we also know that NASA has been looking into how energy works in multidimensional levels for a very long time. He calls it hyperdimensional physics. And he said, the fact of the matter is, your numbers you're bringing to the table are right on the money. And we know it's accurate because we've been studying this. So that's why he wanted these people to look into my technology. What they found out in this alone, who knows what else it'll do? This is brand new information.
It's a game changer, though.
It truly is. It restructures, resurrects dead municipal tap water into its divine blueprint. Its energetic signature comes back, and it's all photographed. It's by leading scientists. They show this tap water from California that's just municipal tap water, and under the scientific equipment that can take a photo of what kind of energies are coming through that molecule of light. It's kind of like Kyrian photography, if any of the listeners are know about that. But yeah, it brings back the actual divine blueprint of water back into holy living water. A lot of this gets so biblical and stuff because that's not really where I came from, and it's not really where I come from right now. But holy, it means sacred. It means something set apart from the rest. So I do consider this holy water. In the Bible, they call it living water because, I think it's very interesting. We should ask ourselves, how did we let our water get into the state of being nearly dead? And it's because it's not out of malice, but it's out of us being ignorant and not having respect for our water and not being able to realize that we're killing it by filtering it and putting chemicals into it and running it down miles of pipes and whatnot. That So what I found out is people, all of us that drink municipal city tap water, it's a closed system, and water is alive and it has memory. It is the container that houses the human mass consciousness Akashic records. So imagine the ability that all of those, because Dr. Emoto, a lot of people know about Dr. Emoto's work. If not, I would highly suggest getting your Google on. He showed that feeling like what he did was invent this technology that would take a water droplet and be able to take a photograph of the molecule of water the instant it began to freeze and crystallize. And what they started realizing was, holy crap, if you tape the words "I love you" onto a glass of water, as it freezes, it creates perfect geometry. It looks like a snowflake. It has beautiful geometry within it. But if you say "I hate you," you can't do that. You're stupid. Anything like that, and tape it to that glass, and then under a microscope, under the scientific equipment, they take a photograph as it crystallizes. It looks like a puddle of mud. So water is memorizing everything it comes in contact with, even all of our belief systems, mental energy. And so not only have we killed our water by not respecting it and treating it how we do, it's a closed system. It's recording all of our human thought forms. So this new technology that Anunnaki and myself, man, it does feel like I got to pat myself on the back. It feels good, but to heal this planet's water, because think, what I'm going to be doing is starting a grassroots movement of, when I met the Anunnaki back in 2008, they told me you were once known as Enki, the water bearer.
Right. That's kind of where we left off on the last show, and that's where, could you tell us about what that is, Michael? What is the water bearer?
At that point, I had no clue. This is in 2008. There was no Ancient Aliens on TV. I had no clue of what the Anunnaki was, what Enki was, what Ea was, or what a water bearer even is. Since 2008, I've asked them for confirmation I said, well, if I am who you say I am and you are who you say you are, encode the names Ea and Enki into a crop circle, and I will take notice. And that'll be my confirmation. And it took 2 years of not getting impatient, because it took 2 years for it to actually show up. And it showed up in 2011 in Italy, and a 7-pointed star crop circle showed up, and on each end of each star was a line of circles, and some of them were blackened in, some were not, they were open. And what was found out is that's ASCII binary code, and when you decode it, it spells out Ea space Enki. But I had also asked them to encode it with something only I would be able to decode. I thought, why not? And sure enough, they encoded it. They had, in this time span of 2 years, that's when they really guided me into subject matters of harmonious cosmic frequencies, and 432 in particular. So during this 2 years, I had tracked down the actual accurate cymatic images of the whole musical scale, but tuned properly. And what I realized is when I got to the A note, it was made from a 27 hertz pulse, which is 4 octaves below 432. See, if someone doesn't know this, I'm going to sound like I'm speaking Chinese. What I want to say is Pythagoras, who gave us our system of dividing music frequencies, and it's really simple. If whatever, no matter where your note is, like right now our A is tuned to 440, and it's not accurate at all. It doesn't create any geometry. But you back it off to 432, almost all of a sudden it's like you've taken a focus on a camera, and this beautiful symmetry and complexity all of a sudden comes into focus. So if you have a piano and you got your middle piano note tuned properly on a piano, and that note is tuned to 432, well, everyone knows, well, there's still a lower A note, 1 octave lower, it's called, on a piano, and then another, and another and another. Well, all you do is divide 432 by 2 to get the next accurate frequency. So 432 divided by 2 is 216. And then to find its lower octave, 216 divided by 216, 108. 108's interesting because a lot of Tibetan monks, they have 108 prayer beads on their bracelets. And then the 54 and the 27. So at 27 hertz is creating a perfect 7-pointed star. I had just created a disc that had that image of the 7-pointed star being created from 4 octaves below 432. I had just created. But because of them putting down that Enki crop circle in 2011, that became a very important, obviously, crop circle to me, because it was a confirmation of me asking them and telling them, if you do, I'll notice, because I'm a student of the subject, and that'll be my confirmation that you are who you are. And I got to tell you, though, I've shared this story, but I think it's noteworthy, is after I asked them, if you are who you are, say you are, put a crop circle that says Enki, the next thing in my mind was like, what a silly request. In my mind, I seen a big crop circle with like Enki written in cursive, looked like a cake. What the hell is that going to do? But I said, well, if you are who you say you are, you'll find a way. Do it something amazing and cool. Well, they encoded it into ASCII binary code, encoded it into a 7-pointed star, which is related to the 432 subject. But the next thing they guided me to is 1 year prior to that crop circle in the exact same field in Italy. Another crop circle showed up that you could tell it's the same author, and it encoded Einstein's E equals mc squared. So right there, they asked me, well, that these are related. They asked me, so what does 432 hertz have to do with E equals mc squared? That took me down a whole nother water hole. So you see, this is just one rabbit hole. We're going down the cosmic harmonious frequencies things. There is so much to talk about. So I don't want to get bogged down in this, but that whole bit of what does 432 hertz have to do with E equals mc squared is what was just confirmed by these leading biophysicists, that it leads to energy. We can get into why that is here in a little bit, because I don't want to just throw up all over everybody.
Elizabeth Anglin said, is that middle A then, the 432 for
yes.
on the musicians? Mm-hmm.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah. And so then if you're coordinating the 432, you're learning all about that. And as a musician, do you think that'll change the way that we perceive music first and then?
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine this. If you went to a bar and that band in the bar was tuned to 432, it would be resurrecting all the water in that room into its natural divine blueprint. For starters, every single person in that bar that's sitting there and feeling that music vibrate your gizzard, they're getting a healing that's unknown by humanity. So and it's a grassroots movement, because as a musician, how I can tell you is to understand this is right now our tuning standard reference is A equals 440 hertz. And there's a conspiracy of why that happened. We can get into that, but the fact of the matter is, using this scientific technology, you can see it looks like a puddle. But when you go to 432, all this beautiful geometry and symmetry comes out. Well, if you think about it, the easiest way for someone to understand that is if I'm sitting here and I have my acoustic guitar out and I'm tuned to today's standard reference of A equals 440 hertz, and you happen to be sitting in front of me and you got a Radio Shack decibel reader, and you're sitting there going, okay, strum your guitar, and you're going, okay, you're at 60 dB, decibels. Now I do nothing else other than take my guitar and I detune every string 8 cents. So the A is going to go from 440 to 432, because that's your tuning reference. It's called a diaspan. Of all the other notes are going to be now using that as their reference note to tune everything. And so now I retune my guitar to A equals 432, and I strum my guitar, and you have your decibel reader out. All of a sudden you're going to go, oh my God, you're hitting 80 dB. And that is about the accurate, there's more information in the signal. So as a guitarist, you know, when I go to a jam night, guess what? I still got to retune my instruments back to 440, because if I go in 432 and the band's at 440, it's going to suck. I can tell you that. But I can feel it. There's no resonation in the instrument. You know, picture an acoustic guitar, and like the one I have is like brand new technology for instruments. It's made out of like carbon composite, and every acoustic guitar up until this point on this planet has been made out of wood, right? Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of bracing. And if you think about it, a brace going across a piece of wood cuts down on how the instrument resonates. It's just physics. So for the first time, I own a brand new technology acoustic guitar that has no internal bracing. There's nothing stopping the resonance of the body. So when I hold that guitar and I strum it and it's pressed up against my belly, imagine what that's doing to my insides.
Well, I'm thinking you're a doctor. It's like a doctor.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, you know, because I have a friend of mine, brilliant keyboard player. I'll give a shout out to Brent Lane. But he's very skeptical, and he was always like, "There's no UFOs. You're full of shit, Mike," you know, and so on and so forth. Well, one day I go, "Dude, I just want to try this," and I have a Tibetan singing bowl that I've proven vibrates at 432. To myself, I just wanted to know it does. So I told him to lay down on my couch, and I took that and balanced it right on his forehead, and I got that Tibetan singing bowl to sing. And all I can tell you is, after that session, every single time he came over my house after that, he'd go, "Hey, Hill, do that bull thing on me." It feels amazing. So in the same way, I could start doing a new healing session where you lay down and I put my acoustic guitar on your forehead and play a song, you know?
Do you think that brings like a change of our... I read this on your website, the michaelehill.net, and on it, it says 432 hertz, a programmed reality.
Yes, because what I found out, and this was because of, you know, a lot of people are hip to this idea we're living in a reflected reality. That is, you know, when I talked about this experiment the Anunnaki put in place, they're the Elohim, you know, for people who want to look at it in a different term and have a lot of power to do things like this. They put this experiment in service to humanity to help us evolve faster, so we would be more prepared for this end of this Kali Yuga, this end of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And that was in 2016, by the way. It wasn't 2012. So Richard Hoagland says, are you aware that all of these 432 base numbers are already programmed and encoded into the Earth's precessional cycle? I said, no. You know, it is. And not only that, to say this reality, what you find out is, let's get back to the E equals MC squared crop circle in the year after 7-pointed star 432 based Enki. They said, what do the two have in common with one another? The answer is E equals MC squared is, I know people know, but I want to be very clear on this. E equals energy, M equals mass, and C equals the speed of light squared. But all quantum physicists now know that everything that's in physical reality is both particle and wave simultaneously. So this is only the mass, the particle part of the equation. It's right there, M equals mass. Where is the frequency component? Well, what the Anunnaki have given to me to release to the world, that 432 squared becomes the speed of light within 1% accuracy. I would say it's the perfect speed of light, but and you can get your calculators out and verify that. So the only frequencies that are truly harmonics of light are 432 base frequencies. So run the equation backwards, is 432 based frequencies squared becomes C squared times mass equals energy. Mass, in how I'm using it, is photons. So if you increase the photonic output, which might be just use a flashlight with a disc. You see what I'm saying? But then it ends up in energy. So when you find out that light is 432 based frequencies, forward and down through the octave.
And that's the form? That would be the form?
Yes, because what you'll find out is, when you convert, what I can tell you is the moon is 1,080 miles across. The sun is 8,480. Was it 460? 432 and 432 is 864. So what I'm saying is go and look at how many miles across the moon is. It's cut off the end. It's 108. That's 2 octaves below 432. The sun is 8,640 miles across. That's 432 times 432. The Earth, everything, the Earth's actual precessional cycle is, now this all gets into, some people might not like the idea of this being a encoded reality, but it's really the proof of, we've gotten smart enough to know that everything that exists is created from what is called sacred geometry, and from the atom to the galaxy, and it's all like golden mean related. All this. What's really interesting with this, the Fibonacci sequence. Tesla said once we understood that the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, we would unlock keys to the universe. Well, what the Anunnaki just communicated to me blows my mind, is that 369 implies a Fibonacci sequence, because everyone knows that is hip to sacred geometry. Every number in a Fibonacci sequence is derived from the 2 before it. So 3, 6, to get the next number for 3, 6, it's going to be 6 and 3 is 9. And then 9 and 6 is 15, and then so on and so forth. When you get about to the 15th place in that sequence, you land on 432.
Wow. It's kind of flowing. It is, because it's been here all along. It's been here the whole time. And
right under our noses, as Robert Bigelow said. Because think of this, what Graham Hancock has proven, now we know that our whole reality is based off of these light frequencies that are 432 encoded. But we know it's now encoded into the precessional cycle numbers, which that gets into it. If you go to my website, look into my blog, and read this, 432 proves we're living in a I don't want to call it, some may say it's an illusion, but it's a very real illusion, because this is the realm in which humanity experiences its own mental energy in an accelerated fashion, unbiasedly. If you go dark and you give your energy away to illusionary outside sources, you will experience the folly of where you've chosen to place your intention magnified back to you, up close and personal. So hopefully you'll change your mind and go, well, this was stupid. I think I'm going to choose a different path. So what I want to get to with this is Graham Hancock has shown how all these ancient sites like Angkor Wat in Vietnam, I believe, the pyramids in Giza, they're all encoding precessional cycle numbers. When you look into our even timekeeping that is given to us by the Anunnaki when we came right out of Sumer, look at how many seconds is in 12 hours. It's 43,200. When you take the height of the pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the perfect height of the planet Earth. Isn't that fucking amazing? Excuse my language. If you take the base of the pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the accurate diameter of the Earth. The Earth's actual dimensions are built into the pyramids, and it's all 432 based information. So what we're going to find out is they've been trying to guide us by drip feeding us this information for a very long time, and we're just waking up to being able to understand it. They're very patient, and I think that this is beautiful too, because so many people have put the Anunnaki under the proverbial bus and said that they're the ones behind all the world's. First of all, I'm saying that a lot of people put them behind the secret societies and the control mechanism. But when you learn that the oldest hybrid bloodline of the Anunnaki comes in through the Native American Indians, well, you got to rethink what you're saying then. Because the Native American Indians have suffered under the hands of that elitist European machinery worse than any race on this planet. The largest genocide ever committed on this planet was committed against the Native American Indians. And once you find out that these were the Anunnaki human hybrid bloodline of the light, it kind of shows you why they've been hunted down and not being able to speak their own native language until very recently. So I'm so excited. Graham Hancock is coming out with a book. I believe it's next month. If it's not next month, it's in April. And it's called America Before. And it's, for all these times he's been hunting down this lost civilization, on all his shows. And now he's like, hey, I found it. It's the Indians. They're
Full
still here.
Back, right? Full circle back. I have a couple questions from. We have one from, if you would mind taking them, from Amber Stanley. She said, "How can you tell if it's 432 hertz if she goes on?" On YouTube or something like that, is something that you feel? Can you feel it, or how is there knowingness entwined in that somehow?
No, I'm taking it. Hi, Amber, by the way, and thank you for the question. It's a great question. How do you know if you're in 432? I take it you're asking for a musician that wants to make sure they're in 432. The answer is yes. If you're sensitive enough, Tibetan monks, that crown chakra singing bowl is tuned precisely to 432, but they do not use a tuning reference. They do it by their own intuition and feeling what the bowl is doing, and they keep chiseling it until that bowl is precisely at 432 hertz. Not too many of us is going to be able to tune our instruments that way, and so it's very simple. Is like for guitarists, you can buy, it's called a Stark it's like a little clip that you clip onto the end of your guitar neck, and that's how you tune your instrument. You hit the string and it shows you when you're in tune. It's in the middle and it lights up green. But those Stark tuners and any tuner, when you turn it on, it's going to be tuned to A equals 440. That's our today's musical standard. So this particular Stark tuner, just make sure the one you get, look on the back, and it has a button that says calibrate. And then there's an up, down, and a down, up arrow, And when you hit the down arrow, and you can watch it go 440, 439, 438, 437, 436. When you get to 432, stop. You're done. Put that at the end of your guitar and tune your instrument, and you are going to be perfectly in 432. That's how I tune all my instruments. But if you're not a guitarist and you want to start dealing with these frequencies and feeling what they feel like, I think a Tibetan singing bowl is a fantastic way to do it. Just type in 432 and Tibetan singing bowl, and tuning forks too.
Does that fit with I know some of the bowls are tuned to different chakras. Is there a chakra that resonates at 432, or is it just the light?
I heard it's a heart chakra. Yeah.
Heart chakra. That's good to know.
Yeah, because that's what I'm doing next. Is every chakra has an associate. I'll tell you what happened is after. We can talk about this, but when I got my name Rainbow Warrior Eagle, it was because I was invited to a very ancient 27,000-year-old ceremony of the Native American Indians, and I was brought before what has been known as the Seven Lords, or the Mysterious Council of Nine. That's a great episode on this council on ancient aliens. I highly recommend watching that. But if you started, we talked about this experiment to let humanity experience its own mental energy in accelerated fashion. The thinking was, well, that should make us evolve faster, right? If you're experiencing, really what it is transmuting our shadow. So if you experience your shadow tenfold, yeah, it's going to seem like a nightmare at first, but if you plow through it, it might have taken lifetimes of reincarnating over and over and over again to transmute that same amount of mental energy into its higher octave of love, and maybe 2 years that it would have taken lifetimes. That's the benefit of this technology. But during that 2 years, it seems like the rug's being pulled out from under you, and you're experiencing every dark fear-based thought form that you've ever held in your consciousness. And I'll think a lot of us are going through that because they told me this.
Body, right? And in your body. So it's not only in your soul, but you're running that through this body.
Yes, yeah. And it's stressful, so that's never good. A lot of people don't make it, even highly evolved people. We've let our shadow. They said, the Anunnaki told me, wow, we just never thought humanity would take it this dark. I hate to say, I'm human as the next, and I've earned the right to wear these moccasins. I've walked a mile in these shoes. But it's a weird subject, but it gets back to what happened back in Sumeria too, pre that, the creation of the Homo sapien to give help to this upcoming Pleiadian vessel that was pre-human on this planet. And just because we weren't, it's weird to talk about these things because it sounds hierarchy, but they told me, always remember that the acorn is no less significant than the giant oak it will one day become. Everything goes through these cycles of evolution, from single cell to self-aware to, a human being thinking they're separate to whatever's above this. But at that point in our evolution, humanity was drinking from ditches and grazing on all fours. That doesn't mean we wouldn't have became wing makers anyhow, but because of something that happened, which was pretty much an experiment in itself to save their own race and to stop civil war happening within the Anunnaki, because the problem was, and this is one of those things that they've given me the answer that I hear so many people talk about this, and it's like, well, they created humanity as slave labor, and that's all how you perceive it, because really what happened was, first of all, in the Enki mythology, Anu was the king of that world, and by the way, I hope that answered the Amber's question, that you can get technology in tune, you can get a tuning fork and tune to that. If you're really good and intuitive, you can go by your own feelings. But so getting back to pre-human, before the tweaking of the genome to create Homo sapien, without any intervention, it was known that this Pleiadian soul carrier might not have enough time by the end of this Kali Yuga, which is 2016, to purge its shadow. And so in a bigger scheme, it's like, because if we're still here, whatever happened worked. Because in a lot of timelines, when they looked with precognitive, it's called future sight, into the future, many timelines humanity didn't make it. We evolved technologically faster than we evolved spiritually, and we would destroy ourselves with the weapons we would create. And we would pollute our planet. We would destroy our own water that brings sustenance and energy. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, in all this, though, on a more 3D level, their race was coming here to mine gold, the Anunnaki I'm talking about. And it became like a death sentence for them, because this gets into, all these are weird rabbit holes, and each one is such a long story. But if people seen the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey, and they said, what we don't realize, Einstein said, the faster we travel through the ether, closer to the speed of light we get, time changes physically for us. And it goes back to, it's called the twins paradox. Pretty much you got two twins, one gets in a spaceship, travels near the speed of light for 5 years, turns around, comes back to planet Earth. His twin brother that stayed behind would be dead 500 years ago. This is a weird mind experiment, but it's been it's proved by today's science, by the way. They've put atomic clocks in jets, and one stays on the ground. When that one in the jet comes down from only traveling a little bit faster, there's milliseconds off on those atomic clocks. So in Interstellar, they brought out the idea that this planet has such a strong magnetic field that when you go down to the planet, 1 hour is going to equal 2 months on the surface. Well, the Anunnaki warriors, that they became known as the Anunnaki heroes, because when they came to planet Earth to mine gold, well, guess what? Every planet is going at a different speed through the ether. This really gets weird on the human brain to wrap your head around it, but that means every planet you go to is in a different time reference. And they said right now there are stargates like in Pine Gap in Australia, and you go into this room and you go through a stargate and you can be on Mars right now. But if you got on Mars right now and trying to communicate back to the Earth, you'd be communicating to Earth humanity 1950.
1950, wow.
But right now.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Oh,
So what was happening was these Anunnaki heroes were coming to planet Earth to mine gold, but when they returned, their loved ones had aged at different rates. And they started to really not but this was a do or die situation for them. So, what you need to know is Anu, who was the king of this world, his first wife was a Pleiadian queen. Now, isn't this interesting when you know this pre-manipulated, genetically tweaked primate that became a Homo sapien? Now we learn it was a Pleiadian soul carrier from the get-go. Well, Anu married the Pleiadian queen. She knew what was going to be going on with her children, so to speak. And that's why this union happened. This is very hard information to get anywhere, by the way. But of course, she wanted to make sure her children were going to be okay. She knew they needed to be taken to school, as Enlil Yahweh told me how he explained it. So their first offspring was the first hybrid amongst their kind in their family tree. And that is myself. I was known as Ea. And so that right there, a lot of people think the Anunnaki is just one bloodline. It's not. This bloodline came really long in the history tree of the Anunnaki, if you think about it. But for the first time, there was new blood that came in through a Pleiadian Anunnaki, which is Syrian. So you got Syrian Pleiadian hybrid mix for the first time in human incarnation, known as Ea. Well, sooner or later, that relationship between the Pleiadian queen and the Syrian king has run its course, and he takes on an Anunnaki queen who has another son who would be my younger brother then, right? And because of their own succession of kingship, I want to get by this fast, but he got the throne, it's just, which is okay. We have much brotherly love. We've had a lot of differences in viewpoint because a lot of that family were going to let mankind perish in the flood. And, the Sumerian tablets tell a whole different story of why humanity survived. And that was, if you can imagine now, Ea, who was given the title Enki, because Enki is a title, not a name. And I was just given Enki-ship again when I met the Seven Lords Council at this ceremony in 2017, by the way. The Pleiadian being the queen and being half of the Ea's blood, can you imagine when his side of the family was going to go, well, we're just going to let them perish. We don't like them anyhow. They'll never step up into their I am. They'll always accept the dark carrot and abuse their power over others or this planet. They'll always become a virus, and they're nothing but slave labor. Well, that didn't sit well with the Pleiadian queen, and it didn't sit well with myself. So, the story of Ea going to bat for humanity during the flood, which became Noah's flood myth and all that. It didn't just contain an ark mythos, that's part of it, but the Pleiadians said, well, this is an interesting concept of yours, Enki, but in our future site, they're not going to evolve anyhow, even if we save this precious race of yours. They're not going to purge their shadow in time. So why put this kind of energy into trying to save a doomed race that's going to self-implode and destroy itself anyhow? So that's why they said, well, let's think tank this. And they said, well, what if we make humanity experience its own mental energy in an accelerated fashion? Wouldn't that make them, in theory, evolve faster? And they said, well, that's a really interesting theory, but it's never been done before. And you can't just do that to an upcoming race that's never been done before unless you're willing to become human and stand before that council of light and dark that weigh the human soul at everybody's death. Or sometimes, in my case, if someone from above says, you know what, I think this one might have it, they don't have to wait until they're dead to be brought before the council. You will be brought before the council in the halls of Amenti, which this is interesting, Barbara, because what you're telling me, at these ceremonies of where halls of Amenti ceremonies are happening, that's what the chief told me. He said, this is no longer is the 12th dimension in the 12th dimension. There's one place on this planet, this 3-dimensional planet, that the 12th dimensional beings at every dimensional level in between will also be in that same physical space with you and will be able to touch you. They'll be able to say something. They'll be able to say your name, which I experienced all of those things. But truly, your brain, it's where, man, this gets deep, but the halls of Amenti is where the actual cosmic supercomputer that this reflected reality is being ran from. And those 4 days of ceremony each day, as you know, is one season. It's spring, 3 months, summer, fall, and then winter. And so they told me, even down, like, it's not mumbo jumbo to them. They're like, so every day at this ceremony for mankind, every second is going to equal 91.25 perceived seconds of physical 3D holographic reflected reality. So if on that day you happen to go into fear or get scared or, choose the dark side for 1 second, the next year in your perceived reality, you're going to experience that same emotional signature stamp for 91.25 seconds. So you can imagine if you have 5 minutes of it being in a bad mood on that day, it's not good. But all of this ended, this whole experiment where, that's what happened with the creation of the Nephilim is, of course, Enki said, well, I've already went against my own kind to help humanity. Of course, we'll try to incarnate into the human vessel and try to steer mankind under the radar and behind enemy lines, so to speak. Because the other side of the family said, you know what, yeah, we'll go along with this, but we're going to prove to you that every dark carrot we dangle in front of someone, they're going to accept it. And the dark is very, very good and tricky. You know what Yahweh Enlil told me? He said, Michael, the trickiest way they have to get you to enter their side is through love and compassion.
Yeah, it's control.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's a tough one to learn, though.
Well, it's really, I understand what you're saying, but sooner or later, once you understand your thoughts are reflecting this reality, it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland. She goes, you know what? I've already experienced 9 miracles before breakfast. So this 10th thing of having to face the dragon, not that worried about it. You know what I mean? But when you're brought into the halls of Amenti to represent mankind, you can't go before the council at any higher frequency than the average normal human being. So there were memory blocks installed. And when Enki's side of the Elohim would incarnate into the human vessel at first, they would spontaneously combust. Not a good way to go at it. So they decided, what if we made an offshoot of the human genome that had more electrical capacitance available at a cellular level? And there's a whole process. We got into that in the last show, but it does explain the blood anomaly of an increase of an enzyme into my blood called creatine kinase, which in essence brings more oxygen into the bloodstream to facilitate healing. Normal human blood amounts are 25 parts per liter. What the Harvard professor found was mine was at 2100. The normal bloodline of humanity, 25 parts per liter of blood. If you've had a heart attack or ripped your muscles, it'll go up to about 300 because it brings oxygen to facilitate healing. So you can see at mine being 2100, there's a lot more chi. So I didn't spontaneously combust. That's what the Nephilim is. And it explains the bloodline and the blood testing that was performed on me. But all of this, they told me, this is the Anunnaki face-to-face. It's not channeling or anything. When I met them in 2008, they said their own succession of kingship and how they relate to humanity was all encoded in the precessional cycle. Now I'm starting to understand what that meant. Back then, I'm like,
what's that word? That's precessional.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. I had no clue. He said that's why this whole entering into the age of Aquarius was so important to so many Earth's cultures, past cultures, historic, religious, So what he said was, the second we entered out of the age of Pisces in the precessional cycle into the next second of the age of Aquarius, that experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution was done and over. And we would either earn, he said, humanity earned the right to be treated as equals.
No.
And if we hadn't, and we then
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
This was a different time because if we didn't make it this time, we're at the end of a grand cycle of the Kali Yuga. All of mankind might have had to start over again from very simple cell things and go through another.
So just in the nick of time, basically.
A visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly
you're late getting here, but
into a
the bus still arrived on
fifth-dimensional
time.
consciousness.
Oh, God. Well, we're
They are
heading
seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light
We did that last
Alliances.
time. Just throw the mic down.
Please join
Boom.
Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned
Saturdays,
for those
3
on
p.m.
Facebook. We'll be
Eastern
right back.
Standard
We're
Time
taking
in
a short
Studio A.
break
For
on
the
Revolution
latest
Radio.
breaking
So
news
stay right where you
on
are.
the
We
Star
do have some
Brothers
questions.
peaceful
We'll get to my-
contact
How
and
long's
the
the break?
ongoing project
It's
of
till
cleansing
6:04.
the Earth.
All right. Thank you.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. Why am I here?
Right
You
back.
are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have
So
been
those
unable
of
to
them on
eliminate from what is
Facebook,
otherwise
stay
a
where you are. We'll be
harmony
right back.
of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
The Matrix is older than you know. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lassonde.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically autonomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday at 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
this is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Collision Course is back. Schedule will be on Revolution Radio every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. You get outer space. You get honest answers, real researchers, truthful answers, and a place to engage with questions. Take part in the discussion. Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com hosts Collision Course every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
Do you or someone you know suffer from poor circulation, shortness of breath, or chest pains? Are you looking for a more natural solution to help overcome these problems? People tell us that after just a few months taking Extendivite, their doctors have noticed unexplainable improvements in their overall health. For more information, visit heartdrop.com or call 1-877-928-8822.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
And tell them Nighthawk sent you, because if you call this number and tell them Nighthawk sent you, you'll get $5 off your first order at extendivite.com. Thank you. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listeners. Tell them Nighthawk Radio, and now we return you. Call this number and tell them Nighthawk sent you, you'll get $5 off your first order at extendivite.com. Thank you. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio.
Okay, welcome back to the Cosmic Oracle Show. Are you still with us, Michael?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what we want to hear. So,
I beamed right back just in time.
Oh, excellent. We have a good rhythm here. So we're going to, if you'd like, I'd like to change it up now. I know that you're known also how it all started, besides a whole bunch of other things, was that you were able to see the UFOs and you filmed them in your backyard or near the lake near your home, and then it went viral and you had over 1 million. How many hits did you have on that?
Right now it's over 5 million, which is pretty crazy. I started seeing them. I live very close to Lake Erie, and I would see these lights out over the lake and not really knowing what it was, because it's not what you typically think of a UFO being. But it really kicked into high gear for me when one time I was having band practice, which that's my true love is music. We can get into that as well. But me and my bass player went into the backyard to take a break from band practice, and he was smoking a cigarette, and I was just chilling, and we seen a UFO, and it was very close, right on the shore. And like if you held your fingers up to the horizon and put them about 2 inches apart, that's how big this object was and how close it was to us. To walk down to the end of my road, I was like about the 8th house on that road, and then Lake Erie was there, so you can imagine how close it was. Well, that sparked my curiosity to start going down to the lake and finding any little beaches or coves along Lake Erie where I could set up a camera and go down around sunset, and I would just hang out and I'd be ready. I had a Sony digital handy cam that had a really nice night shot on it, had it on a tripod, learned how to use it. It took me a year to actually really, one of the biggest things was to learn to turn off the focus, because the autofocus, if you're tracking a UFO going over the lake and it gets off of frame, it's going to go out of focus. You're never going to get it back in the frame. So I found that if I just take the focus off, I got some really good footage, But once I started to accumulate quite a library, though, one night I was down there and I was kind of perplexed, like, man, I know they know I'm filming them. Whatever this is, it grew to the point that they let me know they knew I was filming them. If you understand, they showed me. So I'm sitting there with 2 hours of film on these digital 8 cassettes that those old cameras took. And it was just 2 hours filled with the craziest shit I'd ever seen. And I was sitting there going, I really wonder if they want me to show the world this stuff, And this voice said, well, ask them. There's no one else down here. There's not another soul. Just ask them out loud. And so I said, listen, I got some crazy stuff here on these tapes. If you don't want me to release this to the world, you need to do something you haven't done before and make it so no doubt that here we are, we showed you our mothership. I said, if you show up within 5 minutes, I won't release this anywhere. And I said, I'll take that as my sign, is you do not want this released. We showed you we're really here, we know you have it on film, but this is our sign to not release it. So I sat there and just let it go. And about 5 minutes went by. And like I said, this night was filled with activity. So to have 5 minutes of not even a little twinkle of light out there was odd at this point. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to wait another minute or two. And I got to about 8 minutes. And I thought, well, cool. They must be okay with me revealing this stuff. I said, let's celebrate. And I lit up a joint. It's the true story. I think, it's so good to be able to talk about weed now. It's being legalized everywhere. It's, Chief Golden Light Eagle, prominent chief, he said, Michael, marijuana is Pleiadian medicine. It was brought here by the Pleiadians. Mm-hmm. And look, I was just talking to some people online about, hemp. It's insanity that we've turned our back on hemp for making paper products out of trees. But then you find out DuPont owns the patent on making paper products from trees. So then you start to go, oh, okay, times are changing. But man, I spun out. What were we talking about?
About the UFO connection.
Oh, yeah. I ended up on trees somehow.
Well, you were standing through the trees around the lake, right?
Yes. But so what happened is after I said, well, let's celebrate, and I sparked up a joint, the craziest display showed up out of nowhere that I've ever seen. A mothership did show up, and it was teeter-tottering in the sky. And picture 2 big orbs of light as a teeter-totter, but in between it, those 2 orbs was like a Christmas tree string of 100 lights. And it was like the kit car. Remember that? Like it would go left and right, those lights. But the thing's teeter-tottering in the sky, and it's the size of a couple football fields. And as it's doing this in front of me, these small orbs of light start dropping out of it and taking 90-degree turns over and over and over again. Well, I was like, that was my confirmation that they knew and wanted me to get this. They allowed me to film them, which, by the way, what I'm saying, I know this all sounds crazy, but if your listeners are up on it, look into the Pentagon's secret UFO program that funded $22 million. This was all just released in the media. This is real. They funded $22 million to an outfit called Bigelow Aerospace to look into the subject for the powers that be of extraterrestrial intelligence. And Robert Bigelow just went on 60 Minutes recently and said, yeah, we've had extraterrestrial, they've been here for a very long time, and it's right under people's noses. Oh my God, that's what he said. But they contacted me on what I'm sharing about the Lake Erie UFOs. An investigator from Bigelow Aerospace hired as part of this Pentagon secret UFO program. He contacted me and said, we know that what you're in contact with is the real thing because it's what we've come in contact with at the Utah Skinwalker Ranch. And he said, his people had come to the conclusion that this intelligence behind the phenomenon was they had realized that they have come up against the trickster and that it was more complex and multidimensional than they could ever have thought. So it's interesting. We've been talking about the trickster and the clown.
That's how we started our conversation, you and I, this evening.
Yes. So, as a matter of fact, I just got an interview by MUFON TV because a lot of the story regarding Lake Erie UFOs, Pentagon involvement, Bigelow Aerospace involvement, it's fallen in my lap, and I'm like, good. This stuff happened back in 2011. You know what it's been like sitting here going, no one else knows what I'm learning from Bigelow Aerospace. We can get into this too, but I was brought in by the NSA, a secret group of them that were involved in reverse engineering alien technology, reverse engineering technology transfer programs.
Can we have two questions for you that I kind of weave into where we're at right now? How's that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. We have Sonia Sloan, who I met at a CE5 initiative in LA. They've been doing once a month UFO sightings where people meet in daylight, and they have some really good video also. And her question to you, Michael, is, she says, I've been a witness to multiple spacecraft for the last 13 years. And wait, where did it go? Oh my gosh, it just dropped. Wait, there it goes. Wow, that was funny. I have been a witness to multiple spacecraft for the last 13 years in broad daylight. Can Michael tell me if perhaps this means that I'm in contact with them somehow, some way?
You know what? That's how the contact started with me, was contact with these orbs of light. And it started off with, they would be very high in the sky, and it looked like a little pinprick of light. But they started to come down lower and lower, and I kept, we built up a relationship of me asking them, it's okay, you can, and it got to be a joke almost between us. I'm talking us and them, I would say, low flyby, please. That's my method of, so one day I had a bunch of friends over, and they knew that's how I call in craft, is I just low flyby, please, and it usually will happen. But I said that, and this bird came over my back fence, which is, I don't know, it was about 7 foot, and it barely cleared the 7-foot fence and went right for my hair. Landed in my hair, and its feet went brrr, its wings, it flapped my head with its wings. And then after about 2 seconds of that, and me going, what the F is going on? it flew off, and then it was a joke because I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to get more specific because I just said low flyby, please. Then I had a bird in my head. But yeah, it starts off with you're letting them know that you're okay, and most of all, they need to know you won't go into anger or fear, because it's what I've learned is it's more destructive on their own energetics than we can ever comprehend when they experience anger and fear. Mm. So once you make a connection and ask them for low flybys, and that'll begin to happen, you'll start to just start experiencing synchronicities in your life. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm saying. That's contact, because once you start to pay attention to the coincidences and the synchronicities that life brings you, they'll grow until there's no doubt that something is in communication with you. I heard it put perfectly. They said, one night you're going to have a dream and you're going to meet the creator, and she's going to come to you and give you a flower that is like, this symbolizes our meeting, and knowing you're loved and everything's going to be cool. And here's your gift. And then you're going to wake up in the morning and go, wow, that was a really weird dream. That was crazy. Then you're going to go to get up and you're going to look down and there's going to be a real rose on your chest. Oh. Then what? That's, it's this intelligence. You will grow with it and once you start following those synchronicities, I can't tell you what to expect, because I can tell you it's unexpectable. And it's beautiful. It's brought back the mystery and the magic back into my life, that I went down, became a manager, and gave up guitar playing. I went down. I was going to do like the normal, what I thought humanity is asked of me, that we're kind of molded in to be. So I'm going through this experience just like you are, and report back.
I love it. She will. I know she will. Mm-hmm. Our next question is from Corey Lavoie, and he says, "Hey, Michael, good to hear you again. As far as questions go, is there anything you've been told about divergent timelines?"
Yeah. This gets funny. Honest to God, one of the members high up in the family told me recently, he said, "Michael, the work you did with the NSA in 2012 has caused a Mandela effect." How about that? I'm like, shit, I'm going to have to tell everybody I screwed up their movies. But, it gets weird because it is the reality of the situation. There are multiple timelines, and they all have a reality to them. And humanity, with the work of a lot of enlightened beings and people who cared, we're taken into a better ending of this human timeline, because until 2012, all signs were pointing to us having a doom and gloom ending of this experience. And Nibiru was coming in for one, and it had a doomsday transit between Mars and Jupiter. Because if you think about it, it comes through every 3,600 years, you'll find out. Well, it's not catastrophic every 3,600 years. So, and that's provable in our, geological record. So what makes it survivable and what doesn't? The answer is where it comes through our solar system. This was a bad transit. Not only that, we had what they called a galactic superwave that was coming from the middle of our galaxy. And NASA announced to the world, people just, I don't want to say didn't pay attention, because this is weird shit, you know what I mean? But it was released to the planet, and that was a gamma ray, a wall of fire that was 100 times hotter than our sun. Imagine that. And it's traveling, rippling from the middle, it's expanding out through our galaxy. And as it passes through solar systems, they could see each sun would go into its next evolutionary phase. If it was a normal sun, it might go become a red dwarf, or it may become a black hole, But it was this wave that was initiating this evolution, and they could see it happening. Well, it was arriving here in December of 2012. So the NSA said, why don't we use the Annunaki technology that they're trying to use with the Philadelphia experiment of making a false Merkaba, putting a false magnetic field around an object and ripping it out of. They're trying to create a fake Merkaba, false Merkaba, let's call it. But it worked, So what they told me was A.R. Borden, who was the head of this NSA program, he said, what the Anunnaki want to do in 2012, they said, we're going to get the hell out of Dodge, but we're going to take Dodge with us. And some events happened that took humanity into a more positive ending to this human story. And I think we should all feel so blessed right now. And me, they just brought us a way to clean our world's municipal tap water for fucking nothing. You know what I mean? We're in a new timeline, but I'll tell you what they told me, because they said you're causing the Mandela effect, because what realities you're ripping in are so outside of the mass consciousness's box that it's causing clashing. And they said that what I needed to do was to begin through ceremony, because these are Indian elders, through ceremony to start including more people in my vision of a golden age. And every other person that aligns their energy with mine, because it's not I, it's we. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that will fine tune. It'll fine tune this being created reality, and not make it so crazy and outside of the box when more people start joining through ceremony to add their energy to the creation.
I love it.
And that's what we're doing right now, right?
Exactly, with this show.
So great question, by the way. This is one of the best shows I've ever done in just getting information out, because these are really difficult things to talk about. And boy, it's flowing tonight, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. It's feeling good. The cup is just going. It's just like, woo.
It's like we've become like water, my friend.
Oh, that's what it is.
Pull the Bruce. See what I did there?
Water bearer, yes. Hey, I'm feeling it in my hands too. So anyway, okay. We have another question, and that is from. Let me find it here. It was a good question too. Not that there's a bad question. Let's see. So please ask your questions, because this is your chance.
You know what is a bad question? I was once asked if Adam and Eve had belly buttons.
Oh God.
Anyhow, go ahead.
What difference would it make? Okay.
It's kind of an interesting question. I'm like, well, shit, they weren't born, were they?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have an umbilical cord. Wait a minute. And someone else, God has a belly button. I went, whoa.
Oh.
Now you're in my head. Wait, did she?
You could go through a whole conspiracy with that, right? You prove it. We want. It's not real unless we can see it, test it, like that.
But I'm pretty sure, what I found out is through Bigelow, this intelligence, the Elohim, that shows up in their own Merkabas, and they look like these orbs of light that are showing up worldwide. It's truly them in an energetic state. But this isn't my opinion. Think about what I'm going to just reveal here. From my contact with Bigelow Aerospace, they said they were called skinwalkers in the Utah area from the Native American Indians there. They named this intelligence skinwalkers because they would see an orb of light come down out of the ground and it would turn into a giant deer. Or it would come down and turn into a giant wolf, which the scientists at the Skinwalker Ranch experienced themselves and filmed it and know about it. But this Bigelow investigator turned me on to some documents that were declassified in the UK Ministry of Defense. And it was them releasing, and I've shared all this. It's all, read the stuff on my blog. I got links to the actual Freedom of Information Act release of these documents from the UK Ministry of Defense. They said the real deal is these orbs of light that are showing up right now. By the way, the investigator told me that these aren't UFOs in the way of normally how people think about craft made out of metal and nuts and bolts. He said these orbs of light have more to do with portals and time travel. This is the Bigelow investigator telling me this. Wow. So what the UK Ministry of Defense reveals in these documents is that first of all, they said the color you see will be dependent on its frequency of resonation, how fast it's spinning, you know? But it said in some process, they've noticed one of these can split into two, and two of these can split into three. But in some kind of process that's unknown to mankind, three of those orbs can come together and become a giant triangular craft that now is solid and reflects starlight when it's above you, and they're huge, they're massive. So now I want just to back up and think about what we just learned then from Bigelow Aerospace on the Skinwalkers, and the same exact intelligence that's manifesting in the UK Ministry of Defense, and they have seen it turn into giant triangular craft. So now this is an intelligence that can become anything physical in our reality, as anything biological or technological, and anywhere in time. That's what we're encountering right now.
And that's been there all along as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, ain't it?
Yes. Maybe that deer that just showed up wasn't just a deer then, right? Maybe just for my comfort zone, and it really had something else to say to me, you know?
It's the deer.
Yeah.
Well, that was I got to share this with you now. At one of the Star Knowledges, who I believe was a physical incarnation of Galzu, he had a painting that it looked like a gray, really detailed, but it almost looked like that American Dad gray. You know what I'm talking about, that cartoon. But me and my buddy were sitting there and we're like, that's a crazy in-depth picture of a deer. I mean, E.T., a gray. So we went up to talk to him and introduce ourselves. And when we got up about halfway up to the stage, it morphed into a deer. And the eyes of the E.T. was the eyes of the deer. And we went, holy shit. It was a deer standing up on his two legs. And it had all these star symbols, like all these symbols around it. So we talked about it. We thought that was strange. So now I'm at this Native American Indian, very prestigious ceremony. It's called a Sundance. I don't really want to get into this that much, but I'm sitting there, and this I got to tell you. So when we got back to the Sundance grounds, I asked him. I said, it was really strange, man. Your painting morphed from a gray into a deer. He goes, really? I got it in the car. Let me go grab it. And he put it up into leaned it on a chair in the bushes, so it's standing up. And we're looking at it. He goes, yeah, I could see that, because we walked about 20 feet away from it. You know what I mean? Trying to really see it. And he goes, yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about. So later on, we go up to the circle, where the ceremony actually takes place. And for the Star Knowledge family, they had a shaman, and she was from Hawaii, and she was like a high seer for this family. And she sits down next to me, and she gets this really shocked look on my face. She goes, oh my God, I see a giant white deer behind you, and it's got something that's really shiny between its antlers. It's got all these symbols around it that symbolize star races. These are the symbols of their own race. She goes, oh my God, you have a lot of responsibility, don't you? I'm thinking, no, I don't really know what you're talking about. Because so she, we get done. I'm like, all right, thank you, nice meeting you. I get up and I go to walk back to our campsite, and I'm walking down this dirt road, and the lady that facilitates, her name's Jen. She's awesome. She facilitates, organizes the Star Knowledge conferences. Mm-hmm. She meets me in the middle of the road, and she goes, oh my God, I had the weirdest dream. You came to me last night and you had a giant white deer behind you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This is, but I hadn't put two and two together with him being Galzu and the deer painting. So we get back to the campsite, and we're all sitting there. Now for the first time, the painting I didn't even get this. It was entitled White Deer. I seen white fur on it, and I just thought he wasn't finished. So it never hit me. And these people had just told me they seen a giant white deer behind me. Now I'm looking at this painting, and I go, "Oh my God, he is finished. Its fur's white." For some reason, before that moment, it just deer have brown fur. It was just a stupid mind fart, But so I look at him, I go, "Dude, what color is that deer's fur?" And he said, "Well, it's white." So, make a long story short, what I have understood now is that the stag clan goes back into a lot of cultures. The stag is it's the Enki bloodline. The stag, the deer, is a symbol of that hybrid bloodline on the planet, and it is the white deer. And so I know all about encountering the deer.
Yeah, I have some other stories, but well, thank you for that. I just wow.
How did you encounter the white deer?
Well, a couple of times I went with some friends I had just met in LA on a CE5 to kind of connect with ships, and we went up to this special place, hiked into this mountain, and we brought our little lawn chairs. And I really don't know these two guys very well at all. Now that I thought about it, hey, I'm up here, in the middle of the night with these two guys I really don't know very well. And we sat down, and there was not really anyone around. And then when I looked behind me just for a second, and then back, there were 3 deer there. There was no deer there when we walked up. So they had to just be there. And there was one, a stag. He was so beautiful. So beautiful. It was outstanding, right? It was outstanding. But I didn't think about it at all until a degree of weirdness to it later. And then my daughter and I were driving, and in front of my house, I had just moved. And I swear time stopped because we saw this huge stag with the full antlers leap from right in front of our car up and then over this fence, this hedge place. And it shouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? It was like where it took a aha moment. It just looked at both of us. And then we just went on talking like it hadn't happened. And then later I said, "Do you know that really happened?" That I thought it was, for me, it was like I was going through some stuff at the time where it was like, we got you covered. Everything's okay. And we're here.
Right on.
That's kind of what I got from it.
Native American Indians call that deer medicine. It's truly medicine from above, I'll tell you what happened with all this that we're talking about is this individual who, I don't know what you'd call that, showed himself at first to me as the white deer. He had a physical incarnation. He came up to me and said, "Michael, if you look at all the family photographs up until now, I sat behind Enlil." He said, "Now, for the first time in the new family photo, I'm behind you." And he said, "I now stand behind you, but there's a lot of other times, other incarnations I didn't, because you became an idiot." That's what he said. Honestly, a true story. And he said, "But I stand behind you now." So, he is the Galactic Federation representative, ambassador that has that congregation of star beings at his beck and call, and now he stands behind me.
Wow. Yeah. It's wonderful. It just feels peaceful. The peaceful peacemaker.
It does feel good.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And for me, the part of the deer medicine, I'm a real gentle, easy, kind of kind, nurturing, sweet. That's who I am. That's kind of who I am. And it is kind of like a deer medicine in a way. But also I'm a whole bunch of other things too. But for a while I really felt like I carried that. And so, but now I'm more of a lion, so.
it's interesting because to share this with you, the two biggest hybrid bloodline names that the Enki Atlantean Nephilim hybrid bloodline is known as is the Stag Clan and the Serpent Clan.
Mm.
And they're truly one and the same.
Wow. Well, that's really wild. Thank you for that. And I have something I'll tell you after the air about something else, but otherwise we'll just keep on going, right? We have some questions, so let's get to our people. But okay, I'll just ask it. I woke up in the middle of the night and I don't know if people can see it. It looks like 2 fang marks on my wrist. I don't know if you can see that. And I thought that was kind of tripped out. You can't really see it, but I think our audience can. And
yeah, I'm on Skype.
Yeah, and I had a dream where an actual huge snake came at me and bit me, and it woke me up. So, but maybe we'll.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So, but I'm working with it. So it's kind of interesting. So, okay. So let's go back to the question then that we have with Neil Robichaux, and that's Robicheaux. He says,
hi, Neil.
He says, ask questions about the moon. He's telling me, is the moon a war planet and Earth a slave planet?
No, but the moon is not what we think it is. It is artificial. And the intelligence acceleration experiment that was put into place 27,000 years ago, that humanity has been under that projection of this reality that's reflected, that scientists are now starting to realize somehow we're living in a holographic reality, a holographic universe, and all 432 base, which I just revealed, that technology is broadcast from the moon, and all of humanity is under it. But the council operates from the moon as well. I'm talking about the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness mentioned in the Atlantean Thoth, Emerald Tablets of Thoth, that they operate from the moon. And it's very interesting because the Native American Indian lady who gave me my name, my Native American Indian spiritual name of Rainbow Warrior Eagle, before this, she goes, I got to tell you, she's really tuned in, right? She said that the councils they operate from the moon, and that the dark still use light to travel through this reality. And the only time that the moon has not one beam of light is during the dark phase, right? So on those dark moon night phases, I was coming to take her before the council, and it's on the moon. And she said, now she told me she is the Native American Indian Akashic records keeper. Like, if you want to get into the Akashic, she's who you go through. And she said, Michael, you've been coming to every dark moon phase and taking me to see the council. And I've been thinking, why is Michael bringing me here? Now, mind you, this isn't the Mike that's talking to you. I don't remember any of this. But she said that she was really like this council is like going, who are you? And she'd go, well, my name's such and such. And they go, no, who are you? Finally, she said her most ancient Native American Indian name. They said, yes, well, we recognize you as that. And she goes, I don't know why I'm here. Michael brought me here. And she said this kept happening. And then all of a sudden she'd be brought back to her bed, and she don't know what happened. But the last time that I brought her to see the council, in the moon, by the way, is I brought her before the council. And this is all you need to know. This is right before I was being brought to go before the council on this earth, being brought into the halls of Amenti we're talking about at this Native American Indian ceremony. So it was happening in the astral before it happened here in the physical. And they knew if I got through, then I've earned my place back into the round table. I am King Arthur. It's interesting, this new Poseidon movie. I mean, Aquaman. By the way, I'm going, this is really encoding a lot. Because this is, that's what we get to is the round. I've already met Merlin. He said, you know what he said? He said, now that the two most main characters of the round table are here, we're going to be getting it back together. But he said, you really need to think about what your actions are having, though, on other family members. And he said, but we'll let bygones be bygones, and that was the past, and this is a new time, so welcome home. And
wow.
So
that's huge. That's just so huge.
Yeah, but it's not my thing, though. You know what I mean? Like, so this whole meeting.
So you got to learn about that. Do you have to go?
I'm kind of getting educated now because, I found out that all these energies have been known by, we've had many names. I like to tell people what I am is nameless but not voiceless. But anyhow, King Arthur is Saint Michael, is Ea, is Enki, is the peacemaker, is the Maetra, Ptah, Lucifer. That gets into a weird one. I don't talk about it much, but it's going to come out in the air anyhow, and it is the truth. But the Vatican took some of the good guys, right, and girls. They took Mary Magdalene, and for 2,000 years said that she was a prostitute and a whore. Now this is true. The Pope just came forth and said, we just found out that Mary Magdalene is the apostle of apostles and understood Christ's message more so than anyone, and we're going to make a saint's day for her. And I'm thinking in my mind, are they going to say, and oh, by the way, sorry about that 2,000 years of saying she's a hooker and a whore. So
they probably, I would be surprised.
So the whole Lucifer thing, Ea was known as Lucifer. It's interesting though, when you look at all these titles, Maetra, Poseidon, Neptune,
Zeus?
All through
Zeus?
No, Zeus is my brother.
Okay.
I'm Poseidon in that telling of it. They all have these nice, beautiful kind of stories that go along of someone that really went to bat for humanity and stood up for them. But you get to Lucifer, and it has all this negative baggage with it. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think the story's been twisted by the dark, and mankind's bought it tooth, line, and sinker. But it's really weird because I have been doing a few interviews, and people are actually very intelligent. They've done some homework to even put together that, and so even that's not my thing either. I'm not Christian. I'm not. Those labels mean very little to me. But on this thing, I do want to tell you, I went to, when I worked for my old company, this is in the 1990s, I went to a psychic fair with some people afterwards. And this lady was teaching like an hour long at her shop, like a guided meditation and learning how to like kind of remote view kind of thing. And I said, hell, that sounds fun. This lady seemed really on it. So I went, and there's about 10 of us. And she does a guided meditation to sit down by a fire and call in your higher self. And so, it's all like this beautiful night, stars are out, you're sitting in the woods, and there's a beautiful fire. And there's this person walking up the fire. And if you ask them to come and say hello, they will. And I said, sure, come on and sit down. And this being that walked up to me, it's kind of weird now that I think about it, because at that time I had my head shaved. For my job, I just, for about 10-year period, I used my beard trimmer and I just kept my head shaved. So it was weird when my higher self came up to me. He looked like I do now, you know what I'm saying? And sat down and I said, and she's still going through the meditation now. If you want, you can ask them what their name is. I said, hey, what's your name? He goes, Lucifer. Well, it almost knocked me out of my meditation because I'm not Christian like that. That's the last name I ever intended to know for it to come out of him, you know? And he smiled. He goes, "Oh, don't worry. It's none of what you're thinking." And I went, okay. But what was even funnier is then it was the end of that meditation. So she goes around the class and she's like, "Okay, I want everyone to say who your higher self is and who you met," you know, and it, like this horror comes over me. I'm like, oh my God.
You just want to blend, right?
yeah, I want to be invisible. You know what I mean? And I'm like this, and I've learned, I will not lie. I think all we have as humans is you say what you mean and you mean what you say. So as it's going around the room, I'm realizing I'm going to have to say, well, he said his name's Lucifer. You know, it seems so stupid and like crazy to me, but it got to me and I said, well, I met my higher self. He said he's Lucifer. She's like, "Oh, honey, everyone's welcome here," you know, and kind of treated me like I was the misfit stepchild, you know, but true story. But at that point, I'm like, what the hell is that about? You know, so now to come, you know, here's the deal. Look into, first of all, Archangel Lucifer is Archangel Michael. Look at their start. They're one and the same, man. You know, Lucifer was God's right-hand man, right? God favorite and the head of over all the angels. But then later on down the timeline, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? There's no time. Now what? You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, for this experiment to go into play, to have humanity accelerate their human conscious evolution as quickly as possible, the Dark did their best to make Team Light into Satan, where Lucifer was never Satan, you know?
Yeah, be afraid. Let's just condition on fear. Let's just give them their worst nightmare right wrapped up nice and neat.
Yeah. It's here's the way I've been told is, you know, the 7 Lords of Darkness, their spiritual job in heading, like, overseeing human conscious evolution is to see, like, dangle a dark carrot in front of someone and see if they'll accept it. See if you'll give your energy and your I am away to an illusionary outside source. This came from Enlil himself. So they got a lot of ammunition. Like he's told me, the trickiest way they have to get you to give your I am away to them is through love and compassion. But Team Light is going to come to you and see what kind of love and compassion you bring to any suffering that comes your way. Think about immigrants. See what I'm saying? That's a big test from the speed of light. the seven Lords of Light to bring, you know, immigrants into the equation and say, how are you responding? Because obviously, if you want to get to the 7 Lords of Light testing, and they're going to test you to see how you respond to any suffering that comes your way, how a big portion of humanity just treated our Mexican border. But look what just happened. It's so beautiful. It's like, I said, I'm starting to think I should be thanking Trump for his backwards service to humanity.
In a way, right?
Yeah. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have Corey Lavoie has one more question about Thor. Can you tell us about Thor with a question mark? And of course, Thor's a subject I like as well.
Yeah. You know, everything I believe, it's almost the same brother story. Remember I told you Enki was always a hybrid. And his brother was the half-blood. But in that mythology, Loki is the trickster, and the half-blood, whereas Thor is the full-blood. That's actually reversed. They got that part of it wrong. But yeah, Thor is Enki, Poseidon, you know. Loki, see, it gets weird because this intelligence that if they split into 2 teams, good cop and bad cop, I call them, and one's job is to look out over mass consciousness, and if they see someone vibrating fear, their job is to make that person experience their own mental energy in an accelerated fashion. If you came before a multidimensional being whose spiritual role it is to show you your own dark baggage, you're going to go demon, because they're making you experience all your own shit. Mm-hmm. That person who took that role on spiritually was Marduk, who became Ra. And so he took on the role spiritually to reflect back a negative polarity, so humans that chose that path would be able to evolve faster and hopefully change it and transmute that shit out of the human mass consciousness, Akashic records. But so if any of this, the dark side, all the elite, when people go, well, they're catering to this Anunnaki force, well, guess what? It is true in a way, but they don't understand that intelligence that is there to reflect back a negative polarity. So all the humans that have chosen to misuse their power and abuse others, and think of themselves, the whole concept of some people are chosen and the rest of us are goyim, that kind of idea, it's taken the dark bait, that was his role. And when I met him and he found out that I was here, he now broke down into tears. Mm-hmm. And the other Anunnaki that was there, his name was Loki, by the way, which is really interesting. You brought this up. I'm talking in the physical. This one that befriended me, he said his magical name was Loki. Back then, there was none of these movies, or there's another like Loki. Isn't that some kind of like hobbit? You know what I mean? But so when people are talking about Satan, that role of reflecting back a negative polarity is actually in service to mankind, because there's a team light, and you could just as easily choose things to focus your mental energy on that uplifts your soul and enriches humanity and moves the whole creation forwards and evolution up the divine ladder, Jacob's ladder, Mm-hmm. But so people need to know. So Loki walks up to him and he's in tears. And by the way, before he knew who I was by testing me with some type of instrument, he was in his bad cop role. He was like, we're going to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, really, yeah. They were pissed about some information I had leaked that got out into the media. And he said, I am the person who decides what gets released to humanity regarding the extraterrestrial subject. And what you and David Sarita released in your film was not on the list. This is Boyd Bushman, by the way, the senior scientist from Lockheed Martin. And if your listeners remember, on his deathbed, he came out with a deathbed confession, a Lockheed Martin scientist, and it was squashed because people go, oh, it was a Halloween Walmart alien doll, Mm-hmm. Well, no, this is why I first met the Anunnaki, and they had no idea who I was, which is interesting. Once he knew and found out I was the person filming the Lake Erie UFOs, he said, we need to know what you know. And he pulled out this wand, and I could feel it stimulating my third eye. And by the way, that's how I heard they can hit your Akashic records. They can see exactly who you are, ever were, and ever will be. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, he started like getting crazy. Like, he's like, who brought this person here? How did this happen? And he all of a sudden he gets on his knees. He said, we've been waiting for you to surface, and we don't know how you're here, but it's a miracle. And if it's okay with you, we'd like to have a council meeting. I was like, wow, this is a change in attitude. But what just happened? And I said, well, I have no idea what you're talking about, or what you're on your knees about and getting emotional, but what is it? And he said, there's going to be another celestial object visible in Earth's skies very soon, and it's not going to be debatable. People are going to look up and go, hey, isn't this what they're talking about, of this planet that was just revealed by the media, NASA? Looking at 2016, January, Planet X found. It's going to be visible, though, soon. And he said people are going to go, hey, isn't this planet that was inhabited? And people said they built the pyramids, which they did. He said, we want to know what humanity's systems of culture, the government, religion, finance, what effects you think that this knowledge of another, not higher, but a bigger picture that, Earth Earth has been not what we thought it was. And so at that point I went, well, okay, I like talking about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Cool. And at this point, Loki goes up and puts his arms around him. And he said, "It's okay, my king. Now you can finally rest." Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. That's so real. And very real at the same time.
Yeah. The meeting was really interesting, though.
We have about 2 to 3 minutes left, Michael. So however you want to end this, we want to thank you for being on the show, for the Cosmic Oracle Show. I really
thank you for having me back. I always have a blast. You know how in my mind, the success of an interview I do is totally related to how much I laugh. And I've had such a good time, and it's weird when you're having a good time and you're laughing and it has the vibes of family, you feel like home to me. Time flies by. It's all like, what? It feels like 15 minutes is fast.
It does. I'm thinking the same thing. Definitely the family connection and all of our wonderful people here on Facebook. I didn't get to say hi to everybody, but you know who you are.
You know what Chief told me about this? Because we go through this at Star Knowledge conferences. You have this feeling of family and camaraderie, and it's so beautiful. But then you got to go back to the real world and you got to go to work tomorrow, and you're like, ugh. And some of us were complaining about it. Like, we cry when we leave each other, at these conferences. He said, this is what we're... Oh, sorry.
We have to have...
being played out.
Right now. Good night, everybody. Thanks. See you next.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at buyer risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free, but there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country is founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This